Okay, so morning everyone. I hope you are doing great and that you are not too confused about quantum computing, because I am a bit, but anyway. This presentation will be about something much more concrete. So I am William Houry, as we said. I am in charge of sales for Versasec. We are a Swedish company, and we develop software in the identity and access management world with a specific focus in the management of digital identities and secure authentication devices, such as smart card or other PKI devices. And today I'd like to speak about one concept, very concrete, which is the just-in-time virtual smart card. And before getting into the details about the virtual smart cards, let's start with a fact. And the fact is something I think we all know in the room today, is that this is the end of passwords, right? I mean, credential threat is today's crisis. 91% of the cyber attacks today came from a stolen username and password. And we all know here in the room that passwords are very easy to be stolen with phishing attacks or social engineering or so on, or hacked with some powerful tools. So that we know already. What we may not know as much, and what is a bit scary, is that some study shows that 60% of employees share their password with coworkers. That's quite scary. And one other number which is even more scary is that a study shows that 20% of them will sell a password for less than $1,000. 20%. I mean, for less than $1,000, you will risk your company reputation, you will risk your career. I mean, I will never sell one of my passwords for $1,000. Maybe for a nice Ferrari, but not for $1,000. Anyway, this is fact. So, what is the answer to that? What's the solution? Okay, we all know the solution is strong authentication. More secure than username and password, because it's based on multi-factor authentication. Something you know, something you have, maybe something you are also. So by having this multi-factor authentication, you protect yourself against internal attacks and external threats. That's good. So a few examples about strong authentication method. One-time password, with an OTP token or with SMS. Hardwarebased PKI, we will come back to this. Biometric, context-based authentication, behavior-based, I mean, several of them. And the one we want to focus on is hardware-based PKI. And why is that? So before getting to the detail into why we should choose hardware-based PKI, let's remember quickly what is an hardware-based PKI. The most common one is a smart card, right? Credit card format that you can use for both physical access and logical access, which means access to the computer. The main principle of the smart card is that it has an embedded crypto processor, and that all the crypto operation will be done into the device and will never leave the device. And all the keys will be generated and stored into the device and will never store the data to ensure the security. So again, this could be a smart card in a credit card format, but this could be a micro SD card with an embedded crypto chip. This could be a USB token with a SIM card, a USB token with an embedded crypto chip. You have several options. And it's definitely an high and proven security with very strong certifications such as Common Criteria, FIPS, and other certifications like that. One important advantage of choosing hardware-based PKI is that it's very convenient for the end users. Because you get rid of passwords, you get rid of the password policies. So you don't have to change your password every 2 weeks. You don't have to put a very complex password with some alphanumeric, numeric special characters that you will not remember anyway. So this is more convenient. And last but not least, it works for all. It's not only about authentication. It is about authentication, of course. It works for Windows logon, secure authentication to website, application, VPN, remote desktop services, Wi-Fi. It works by default. As soon as your application can be configured to use client-based, certificate-based authentication, it works. But on top of this, it works for mail and document signature, and I'm talking about qualified signatures that could replace a written signature. And it works also for mail and disk encryption and pre-boot authentication. So with one device, which is your smart card or your token, you get access to everything. That's good. However, there are some challenges in deploying physical smart cards. There are many challenges, otherwise everyone will do it, because that's clearly the most secure and convenient way to do things. One of the challenges is you need to manage a stock of this device, of this smart card. And if you have different physical locations, this could be pretty tricky. So you need to have a stock for each location, you need to have a way to manage this. This is not very easy. Another important point is that in the context of mobility, we more and more have small laptops with only few USB ports, no smart card readers, some tablets with no USB port at all sometimes. And it's quite challenging to deploy a smart card in this context. Bluetooth is an option, but it's expensive. So it's quite challenging to deploy the smart card with these new laptops with only few USB ports and new smart card readers. And the rollout complexity, of course, because you need to involve all these cards, maybe you need to involve some printers, you need to have some workflows, policies to set that in place. So it's quite a complex project. And last but not least, the cost. You have to invest in the cost for the smart card, even if the smart card are much cheaper than before, but still, you have to invest in the cost in the readers, maybe in the printers. So at the end, this is quite an expensive project, and that's one of the main reasons why many companies are a bit reluctant in deploying physical cards. Okay, so the question today is, can we get the same level of security without having to deploy smart card and smart card readers? And the answer is, of course, no, yes, of course it is. So, so let's start by describing what is a virtual smart card. Okay, and to do that, let's go back to the launch of Windows 8. With the launch of Windows 8, Microsoft said, okay, hardware-based PKI is still the strong authentication method that I want to push to my OS and my application. It works by default with all my OS, with all my application. I don't want to change that. It's very secure, I don't want to change that. However, for the same reasons that we have explained earlier, it's quite challenging to deploy physical cards. So, okay, what can I do? I have a TPM module, a Trusted Platform module, which is available now in all the PCs and tablets. I'm using it to authenticate the device over the network. What if I use it to authenticate the user over the network? And that's what they did. They built an abstraction layer on top of the TPM so that it emulates the physical smart card and it makes use of all the standard interfaces of the operating system of the application with the same crypto capability. So at the end, it's exactly like if you use, on a user experience point of view, it's exactly like if you use a physical smart card. And it's connected to the physical device using the Trusted Platform module. We'll come back to this. Of course, it cannot be moved between devices, and it's there. It's there by default on all now the PCs, tablet, and some mobiles. So let's focus a bit more on the TPM to understand. So what is the TPM? Well, the TPM is a crypto chip. It's a crypto chip which is able to store keys and do crypto operation. So it allows to perform the same level of operations than the smart card. The main difference, obviously, is that the TPM is in the motherboard of the PC and will never leave the motherboard. Like the smart card that you can move from one PC to another. Here, it's linked to your device. But it is similar. To be completely exhaustive, in terms of security, it's a bit less than the smart card in the sense that it does not support elliptic curve, and it does not have all the security certifications that you have with the smart card that could be required from some regulation. But in most of the cases, this answers the requirement of security. There are three main types of virtual smart cards. I spoke about the Microsoft one in the introduction, which is available from Windows 8. We at Versasec, we did develop our own virtual smart card, the V6 virtual smart card, which is very similar to the Microsoft one. Oh, what's happened, which is very similar to the Microsoft one, but has the advantage to support Windows 7 also to help our customer to migrate to Windows 8 or Windows 10. We do support also the Charismatics one, which is a bit more advanced with some multi-OS option, and it can use the Intel IPT instead of the TPM. One technical slide to understand a little bit of the Versasec work. If you want to emulate a physical card, you need to slot into the architecture. So you need to fake the system somehow. And to do that, you have two ways to do it. Either you do this as a middleware level, so PKCS11, CSP, MIDI driver, which is what Microsoft is doing with the virtual smart card. Or either you do this at the driver level. So you fake the system by telling him that a new reader has been inserted where it's not because it's using the TPM. That's what we are doing, and it gives us a lot of flexibility because we are at the bottom of the layer. Okay, let's talk a bit more about the just-in-time virtual smart card concept. I explained the main advantages of the virtual smart card compared to the physical one. However, there is a challenge because the TPM is already inserted, embedded into the device. I cannot remove it and do some central management. I cannot use a printer like I can do with the smart card, where I will just say, okay, execute. I print my 1,000 cards. I can just encode them. I can just dispatch. That's it. It's done. The issuance is done. I cannot do that, obviously, with the virtual card. So to deploy the virtual card, one option is to use a user self-service approach, where the user himself will issue a virtual smart card, which is a good approach. Another approach is to use a just-in-time virtual smart card concept with some remote security device management. And this works by having a service running on all the devices and talking to a CMS server. By doing that, you have the capability to remotely provision the virtual smart card. Let's take an example. Let's take an example that I'm working for a company who has deployed physical cards, okay? And then I'm traveling and I forget my card at home or I break it or whatever. Then with this kind of concept, with this kind of approach, remotely the operators can provision a virtual card to my device, to my laptop. I will activate it with two-factor authentication to ensure that it's me. And I will still be able to access my content with no downtime. So that's a very good approach. And of course, with this approach of just-in-time virtual smart card and the remote security device management, it's not only about the provisioning. It means all the steps of the life cycle of the card can be managed. Whether this is to revoke the card if you don't know where the laptop is, whether this is to delete it if it has been stolen, whether this is to renew the certificate, unlock. I mean, all these steps will be able to be managed the same way. And you can use a credential provider. I can go to this. So you can use the login screen directly to do that. So you don't even have to log on to your PC, which is good which means that in terms of policies of GPOs, you can force the usage of the smart card. You don't have to allow username and password at all, which is what is required if you want to prevent from cybersecurity attack. So by doing this, you don't have to enable the password at all. You force the usage of the smart card, and from the login screen, with a pre-populated virtual smart card, the user with two-factor authentication will be able to authentify himself and to activate his virtual smart card and start using it. Of course, to do that, you need a CMS, like our CMS, so like the Versasec CMS. And the Versasec CMS will manage completely the life cycle of the virtual card, but not only, right? It will manage the life cycle of both the physical card and the virtual card. Because what is interesting also is the fact that they can work together. They can work together. You can say, okay, I will use the physical card for all the people working at the office, but I will use virtual cards for the laptop for the VP or for the sales, or I will use the virtual card for a fallback scenario when they forget the card. So this can work together, and this will be fully managed by the same management console, which will connect to the user directory, whether this is LDAP or Active Directory, to the database server, to the SQL server, to the mail server if you want to send some notification to the end user or to want to generate a random PIN code, to the event log, the PKI, whether this is a Microsoft one, Entrust, Prime Key, Global Sign, all of them. The HSM, if you want to store your keys in an HSM, the archival, the operator interface, the smart card, of course, themselves, the user self-service, the RSDM, this component allowing the just-in-time virtual smart card concept, the credential provider, we spoke about it, the SMS gateway, if you want to send SMS to authentify already, okay. No, that's fine. If you want to send SMS to authentify the users, for example, the physical access system, if you want to use the card for both physical access and logical access. Photo capture, if you want to take photo of the employee and print it on the card, and the printer, of course, if you want to print the card and cut the RFID keys and so on. And to speak just about our solution for this, the main advantage that we have for this is that our installation for that kind of setup is very quick, and we don't need any dedicated server. We still have a very secure approach. We have implemented our own secure applet to store all our secrets. We can also use an HSM if needed. So, and it is as easy to deploy and to maintain for 50 users and for 500,000 users. So we have a lot of flexibility. We can go step by step. We can start only with the IT administrator, for example. And then when it's working, when it's proven and tested, we can deploy for the full company. So with all these advantages, we guarantee the lowest total cost of ownership of the market with this product. And if I go back to the virtual smart cards, I think it's very important to understand that the 3 key points of the physical card, we still have them with the virtual card. First is non-exportability. The keys will never leave the device. That's the first thing. Isolative cryptography. All the cryptography operations are done by the microprocessor in the TPM. So we will not be able to stall them. Anti-hammering. If I enter too many wrong PIN code, my device will be blocked. So I cannot do some massive attacks. Okay, important slide, obviously. Of course, I spoke about it a bit earlier, but smart card projects are quite expensive because first, for the initialization, you need to invest in hardware with the card, with the readers, maybe some printers. So it's quite a big investment. And of course, during the maintenance, you could have issue with a lot of cards being lost or broken that you have to replace, which is also a recurring cost. It's much less with the virtual card, obviously, because one, it's already there, so no hardware investment at all. And two, it's pretty rare to broke or lost your laptop, so you will much have less maintenance cost. So from our experience, we have seen that we save around 50% in terms of full project from physical card to virtual card. Okay, so does that mean that this is the end of the physical smart card? Well, no, not really. And because of these reasons, there are still areas that you cannot meet with the virtual card. First is physical security. If you want to use the card for both door access and computer access, then the physical card is still the good way to do that. If you want to use it for visual identification also, so if you want to print a photo of the employees and to use it to show himself to the authenticated card, okay, I will speed up. Security, it's still, the level of security with the card is still higher than with the virtual card. And we have all the security certification which are important for some regulation. And the last one, roaming use. If you have a use case in your company where the laptops are shared, I mean, or the PCs are shared between several users, then the smart card is better, because with your physical card, you can go to one PC to another. With a virtual card, you need to have a virtual smart card for each employee on each PC. Okay, so let's have a look at a few customers' example very quickly. So the first one is a European public transport company. They have 300,000 plus employees worldwide, and they have 90,000 managed virtual smart cards. They used RSA tokens before, and now they are using TPM on devices. They originally planned to went for Wave, because back in the day our product was not really mature, it was a few years ago, but Wave went bankrupt, and they chose Versasec because of our capability to do Windows 7 with the TPM, and we also have some TPM management capability. We don't only manage the lifecycle of the virtual card, we also manage the lifecycle of the TPM. Another example is an international government service provider. They have over 50,000 employees across Europe, North America, Asia Pacific, and Middle East. They have 90,000 managed virtual smart cards, and they were looking to implement two-factor authentication after a security incident, which is often to be the case. And they chose us because of the requirement of Windows 7 support. And they use Gemalto card when the TPM is not available on the laptop. A nice one also, it's a European insurance group in Switzerland. They have 1.7 million plus customer, very healthy customer. And they have 7,000 managed employees, 7,000 employees and managed virtual smart card. And what they did is that they invested a lot of money in very nice laptops, very powerful laptops, very good, looks very good. However, as we said earlier, no USB port, no smart card readers. Okay, what can I do to get the best level of security of this? That chose Versasec CMS because of the just-in-time virtual smart card with the RSDM components. By the way, we are going to publish a case study about this one. The previous one is going to be available in a few days. And the last one, and after I'm done, it's a customer example. It's the American Technology Group. So it's an American technology group with around 35,000 plus employees worldwide. And they use the virtual smart card together with the YubiKey in some small number of circumstances. They have 15,000 managed virtual smart cards today. They plan to go to 35,000 this year. And they had to implement two-factor authentication because of the DFARS regulation in the US. So it's a regulation which forced all the sale of aviation and defense to require two-factor authentication. So that's government regulation. And they chose us because of the virtual smart card support for Windows 7, and because we can issue the virtual smart card from the login screen from the Credential Provider. And that's it. I'm on time, right? So if you have any question, please feel free to ask me, to contact me. I have my stand just here, so please feel free to drop by. I have also plenty of risk codes to hand over, so I will be happy to hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Merci bien, monsieur.
Parfait.